So if you were looking for an SEO consultant, the first question that often comes to mind is what work would they be doing? So how would that relationship look? And it's dynamic. So essentially every consultant would tailor their services ideally relative to where you are. But there's three common themes of areas where they typically work with you. And the main one usually is the highest risk. So this is a completely kind of full-on control service where the consultant would go away, do the work, liaise with the developers, liaise within business, do the changes, and effectively report back on the process and also the progress at the end of the month. So the risk with this is you've got no internal anchor point for that campaign there who's challenging the service, who's making sure that it's aligned with the business objectives, and this is the realms of snake oil, essentially, because websites can grow without any work being done. And it sounds counterintuitive, but how we work as a cohort of a group of guys doing SEO and PPC is anything below 30% is grey area to us. That could be seasonality adapted. Um, and we're talking year on year here as well. Unless the website's tracking at like -10 and then goes to 30% or 20%, that is good growth. But from baseline performance to 30% growth is usually that grey area where we don't know who's done what. And a lot of consultants who are kind of in it for the fast cash will just ride that wave and yeah, report green figures every month until they start turning red. And that's usually when people say, actually, no work's being done, find somebody else. Then the person they go to has got to try and prove themselves. And it's just this vicious cycle of full control, which is a high risk, but it's also a high reward, essentially, as well, where if you've got a really switched on consultant who knows the stuff, who's just allowed to crack on, you have no roadblocks around sign off, quite loose budget control, and they really safeguarding the business and your interests, it can go exceptionally well. But it is a high risk environment that you want somebody who knows the stuff, who can challenge the police and say be this anchor point between the services there as well. The next one is more of a hybrid support package where it could be a case you're working together with an internal marketer, you're creating a strategy, you're running through things like, what the plan is for this quarter, here's the targets, and so on. So this hybrid approach usually help with strategy development, help with execution, plug in the gaps with the internal team, and just being that extension of expertise around SEO and ads or whatever. So yeah, the hybrid approach is really, really valuable because the consultant can learn about the business because they've got somebody with expertise. The in-house person can understand SEO. They can then apply that knowledge to the rest of the team in the business, and just in cohesion, this is usually a recipe for growth. As long as the in-house marketer and also the consultant, good rapport, and they're in contact regular. They're not just kind of left to their own devices, and they genuinely care about the results. That is usually the best recipe there. The last one is more training slash business support. So perhaps you've got a new starter who just needs to know, content writer who needs more back end support around, how do I write an effective blog post for SEO, keyword research, and the training and support is usually ongoing. Month one, you could spend a bit of time doing a workshop. Month two could be answering questions. Month three is backward support. By month six, they're kind of up and running in a way where they go. So each service has its pros and cons. The hybrid is one that I typically like. We've got some clients which are full on service where we've got full ownership, report back, and we work really hard to keep that confidence high, and we genuinely care about the results. So yeah, it does come with an element of risk for some providers, and this is where a lot of people get burnt in that full control. They don't know enough about the service. They spun a really good fairy tale about what could happen, and then they caveat things like it could take months for it to work or whatever, and it's just not palatable, really. So you need to know who you're hiring, and it's not so much knowing the person, whether you'll get along with them, it's knowing their strengths. So it's exceptionally rare to hire an SEO consultant that can do technical aspects, understand code, really strong on reporting, creative writer, technical writer, and everything else that goes with SEO, outlink, PR. So you really need to address what the business needs versus what their core strengths are, and don't feel like, I guess, embarrassed to bring anybody else in the campaign. So, okay, Shin, you do tech. This person can do creative writing. You guys work together. I'll work with both of you, and you effectively build in a team where everybody goes to their strengths. What I see time and time again is an SEO consultant will be commissioned. They'll really hear content, but then the client pushes them to content, and the consultant will take it on, that they don't lose the client. So getting somebody who ticks all the boxes for SEO is exceptionally difficult. So be sure to recruit based on what you kind of need there as well. Other thing is, and this is more on the consultant side, but there is shiny penny syndrome quite a lot. And stagnation is the worst enemy with campaigns. And also, if a new lead drops in that consultant, they'll probably just work on that new lead and then come back to you at a later stage. Not everybody, but it does happen. You get fatigued on a campaign looking at the same site. And the only way we really kind of hone in on this is we work with fewer clients and the buzz comes from the results. I genuinely, where there's a lot of competition internally, we'll look at who's got the biggest results for that month. And then we'll double down, we'll share knowledge and all that kind of stuff. So, and also spicing up a bit with the campaign. So some months it could be content, other months it could be tech, and we keep it kind of varied. But yeah, shiny penny syndrome is a really big one as well. Retainers, it's very challenging. So the work you do every month won't be the same. You can try. What would have to happen is, if you imagine the in-betweeners, Neil, when he clocks off work, just drops stuff on the floor and walks out the door. So that's what some consultants will do when they hit the day rate. They might have 3 days work. On the third day, they'll down tools, increase your budget, or we can't do it next month. How I like to work is say, look, this is the day rate, this is the hourly rate, this is how much work I like to do in month one. And then sometimes, if you need more, say, look, I bring it in for the next month, or if you're under, we'll bank that for next month, or so on. So it's a very fluid way of working. And SEO campaigns is usually month one is painful because we're going through audit stages, report setup, deep dive, business objectives, quarterly reviews, plans, and all that kind of stuff. Month two is actually doing the work. Month three is reacting to the data and continuing the work. So it's usually quite progressive downward over time. And then for Q2, it might spike up again. So a flat retainer just doesn't wash it. It doesn't reflect the work typically. Or if it is reflecting the work, there's something wrong with a campaign where you're doing the exact same amount of time each month. And then stagnation could creep in. So really like the idea of kind of fluid-based pricing. And then the final part is this value-based pricing where it could take the guys an hour to make the change, but they'll charge you 5 days because it's a high impact change for the business. So that's where they'll really make the money on that side, where they kind of blind you with science. And it's not the worst case scenario value-based pricing, because if that leads to, say, £100,000 worth of business, would you pay £5,000 for it? You probably would. But then there are some freelancers that will probably charge you £100 for that change, So it's all relative to where you are. And this is the hugely important part, is know who you want, know who you're dealing with, get some referrals, case studies, see where the skills lie, and you're essentially just trying to be fluid with a campaign. So yeah, they can be as hands-on or as hands-off as possible, but you kind of need to have a good track record in the service that you need as well. So yeah, it is a tough gig, SEO consultancy, because you work with loads of different industries, and any past training history in that industry is really valuable. It usually speeds things up as well. So it is fluid, it is dynamic, and it pains me to say it, but a lot of people who go shopping for consultants don't know what they're getting, and it is tricky. I wouldn't like to go shopping for a consultant, given the landscape at the minute. I'm looking at some of the competitor sites, and I've picked up work from them in the past, seen the caliber of work, and I want to put a lead in for their site. It's really good, rolls really well, but I know the back end just doesn't facilitate the front end of the site. So it is tricky, but don't lock yourself in to long contracts. That's the other thing. Be willing to walk away if you get a good feeling that it's off, or they just aren't aligning with your business goals, and they're really expensive and so on. So that's a whistle-stop tour of consultancy and what I'd expect from that side. There is obviously due diligence and all that kind of stuff that goes with it, but ultimately it's just find the right fit for your business, which is much easier said than done.